Hi everyone, I'm Tom Stone. My pleasure to welcome you to this online demonstration of transforming suffering into joy. And we're doing this for a variety of different topics. And our volunteer for tonight is Jasmine. How do you pronounce your last name?
Kaloudis.
Kaloudis. I wanted to get it right. Jasmine Kaloudis. And she's been suffering from some chronic neck pain, if I recall. Is that right? Yeah. And what I'd like to do is to have her give us a brief description of how bad it is, like on a scale of 0 to 10. You know, maybe it's a 20 from what she said. It's been pretty bad, and how long and so on. Just a little bit of description about it, whether it's there all the time or comes and goes, just so we have a little bit of a sense of it. And then I'll give a little bit of an orientation to how we're going to approach it, and then we'll launch into it. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I've had chronic pain in my body really my whole adult life, and I'm in my mid-40s now. And so start off as back and shoulders and it's like kind of moving up my body, and like now it's neck pain, but the neck pain is neck, jaw, and headache for about 15 years. I don't like counting, and it's excruciating.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah, it feels like a pit bull has like grabbed my neck and won't let go, and it's relentless. And so it's been quite a journey. You name it, I've done it, tried it, explored it, like everything from like very conventional Western allopathic procedures to complementary alternative to extremely alternative. So I'm very open to any modality, but also desperate. So
sure.
I have no idea. I can't explain it. I can't diagnose it because I've had different diagnoses. And it literally feels like my body is a prison and I can't escape it. And it's like, well, is my sentence going to be over tomorrow, or is this my life sentence? And so it literally makes you like crazy. Like I'm a highly functional person despite excruciating pain, and my pain level varies. If you asked me 3 days ago, I would have said it's like a 20. Today it's like an 8, or well, today actually is not a bad day. It's like a 5 or 6. So
Okay.
neck, jaw, headache. Yeah, I'm not sure what else you would want to know about it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I got the sense of it. So we need we need more information about it now. So I want to orient people to how we're going to work. Okay? The very first thing we're going to do is we're going to use what we call intuition testing or muscle testing, which I can do remotely by testing with my fingers. You're familiar with this because you reminded me. It's been a long time, but I took one of my trainings many years ago, maybe 15 years ago. So the muscle testing is a way of helping us pull ourselves out of the mind and into the body. And the reason it's valuable is that we truly know things through our senses in our body. So for example, if you had never tasted a strawberry, I probably used the same analogy even 15 years ago, if you'd never tasted a strawberry and someone tried to describe the taste of the strawberry to you, sweet, tart, juicy, etc., all the different things, they could talk all day about it and you still wouldn't know what it tastes like. You have to actually have the experience. You have to taste it. So the body has this wonderful kind of experiential knowledge. It's the true knowledge of things through experience, whereas the mind is into comparing, analyzing, naming, measuring. You know, it's like it's a wonderful tool, but it doesn't give us true knowledge. It gives us intellectual understanding. And it's also very subject to being influenced by thoughts that are coming not from our true logic or practical or intuitive functioning, but from the thoughts that are being generated out of our unresolved emotional energies. Okay? So if we have some anger because somebody hurt our feelings and we're all wrapped up in the anger, you know, we can be so in the cloud of the anger energy that some friend walks up to us and says, "Hey, Tom, how you doing?" I said, "Don't talk to me." It's like the thoughts that come from our emotional pain and that also come from our ego. That means the thoughts that it's like, okay, I want it my way. And I'm expecting it to be a certain way, or I'm afraid that it's going to be a certain way. These are all the kinds of thoughts that are made up in our mind that are based on what are called reactive emotions. These are emotions where we make up a story in our mind about something. There may be a reasonable basis for the story, but it's still a story we're holding in our mind. And the emotion is a reaction to the story. So this creates two different kinds of emotional energy. The reactive ones I just mentioned creates a kind of cloud or aura of energy that moves out from the body into the space around us and kind of fills up the space, creating a sort of cloud or aura of energy. And the emotional pain-based ones, which I'm quite certain, intuitively, I'm quite certain you've got a bunch of that are contributing to this problem. These tend to be stored in the body, and they tend to be more like a tight knot or ball of energy, kind of like a constriction. And you're familiar with that, I'm sure. You've had plenty of them. And so we use these two techniques, and in order to find which techniques to use and precisely which energies of those techniques we want to identify and resolve with the techniques, we first want to start with this muscle testing procedure for something we call a where to start chart. And the where to start chart has 5 different levels to it. It's very simple. The first level is this level of consciousness, which is the things we're aware of, the things we experience, like our thoughts, feelings, perceptions. And this is the level at which the pure awareness techniques that we're going to use today, assuming this is the right level, that we're going to use these. And the second level is an energetic level. Energetic level is for things like X-ray, CAT scan, MRI. We have a device called the Quantum Energy Optimizer. It works on this energy level. That can also be good, very good for chronic pain, but it has to be done in person, and only if it tests that that's the level at which the problem can be solved. That's the second level up. Third level is chemical. We're all familiar with that. This is nutrition, diet, toxins, detoxification, all that kind of stuff. The fourth level is the physical level, mechanical level. This is where we need surgery, chiropractic, bone setting, taking a walk, taking a shower, all the mechanical kinds of things. And the fifth level is the level, it's probably in that extra esoteric area that you were talking about. This is the level of karma, right? This is like the returning influence of past action. So you take an action and then it has some returning influence. Everybody's familiar with this idea. It's actually just an extended understanding of the Newton's third law of motion, which is that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. It's very simple. So there are certain modalities for neutralizing the returning influence of negative past actions, but that's not what this particular procedure is about. For us, in human software engineering, we used to call this, we now call it inner greatness optimizing. And the names of the techniques have been changed a little bit from back when you took it. The core technique is now called the in technique, and C technique is now called the out technique. And we changed them because the acronyms of the human software engineering language, I'm in China at the moment. I'm talking to you from China. And here in China, the acronyms were very difficult to translate. So we simplified. We just call it the in technique and the out technique, and they perfectly describe the process. So it's simpler, easier to translate, and it's kind of a refinement of the language. So
do you want me to have like a nice clean backdrop since you're recording this?
No, it looks fine. It's fine to have the pictures and stuff. It's okay. I'm going to use the muscle testing to test from the where to start chart to see if, in fact, the problem can be significantly resolved from operating on that first level, the consciousness experiential level with the pure awareness techniques. So this problem is, to a very large degree, able to be resolved from that level. Yes, oh, this is good news. Okay. And in fact, the problem is 100% resolvable at this level. Oh, this is very good news, Jasmine. This means there's a possibility we could get you a breakthrough, okay? So what's been happening clearly, you've been stuffing the emotional energies into your body and not completing them. And this is extreme. This is so common as to be universal. Okay, now it doesn't end up in chronic pain for everybody necessarily, but it'll end up in maybe high blood pressure or some other kinds of problem. All kinds of health problems come from this. And the origin of it is that when we're little, we all get emotionally overwhelmed many, many times. I've yet to meet anybody who liked it. In fact, everybody hates it. And even before we learn how to talk, we learn how to do our best to try and suppress the painful emotional experiences so we don't get emotionally overwhelmed. We hate the emotional overwhelm too much. So what happens is we have a tendency we get really good at that. And we get so good at it, even pre-verbally, that we don't even have language for it because we developed it before we had language. So we get so good at it, we just do it sort of automatically without even realizing we're doing it. Now the result is when you shove something under the rug, it's still under the rug. It's not gone. Now it kind of feels like it's gone because you don't feel it on the surface, but the energy is still in there. So what it is it's the energy of an incomplete experience of the emotional pain that happened back when you couldn't handle it in the moment. Okay. Now this is the primary cause of things like fibromyalgia. I mean, if you went to some practitioners, they'd say you have fibromyalgia. Okay. So, there was a study done at Kaiser Permanente by a Dr. Vincent Felitti. And it's now a very famous study. It's called the ACE study. And ACE stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, basically childhood traumas. Okay, and so they studied like over 17,000 people in this study. There's all the people in the preventive medicine department at Kaiser. And what they found is that the childhood traumas have a direct correlation. The more of them, the more categories of them that you have, the more chances you are to not only have physical diseases, but also mental disease, mental problems, depression, anxiety, suicide attempts, shorter lifespan, all this kind of stuff. Okay. So I went and met Dr. Felitti and I showed him about the muscle testing. He was very intrigued with that. And I told him, I have these procedures for being able to solve many of these problems. We talked about it and he said, I'm sure that fibromyalgia, which is this kind of chronic body pain, he said, this is primarily an emotional problem. Dr. Felitti said, we in the regular medical profession, we don't have a solution for repressed emotion. And he gave some examples. Anyway, so he decided he would refer some fibromyalgia patients to me, and I would videotape the sessions. He referred the first person, and I showed her how to do what I'm going to show you again how to do, which is this pure awareness technique. We did it on several of the worst feelings of pain she had in her body, and they vanished. And she was really encouraged. And I said, can you do this on your own now? And she said, yeah, I can do it. So I said, okay, go away for 2 weeks, do this every day, several times a day, and then come back in 2 weeks and let's see how you're doing. So she came back in 2 weeks and she brought her husband with her. And the husband walked in first and he said, what have you done with my wife? Oh, God. Well, he was pulling my leg, And I said, well, what are you talking about? He said, and then he smiled and he said, all her pain is gone. And so I said, wow, that's great. And she walked in behind him. She said, yeah, it's amazing. It's all gone. I don't have any more pain. So I chatted with her for a while, followed up with her 6 weeks later, pain all still gone. Okay? So this is what we're after. I'm telling you this to inspire you that this has worked for very similar situations, and not just one, but many. Okay? So the likelihood is that this is extremely likely that this is being caused by stuffing the energy of the traumatic, emotionally painful experiences in your body, not completing them. Now I can see something on your face like you're about to cry.
No, I just want some water.
Okay.
Well, I mean, I'm open, but I'm not emotionally. I don't want to be too hopeful.
Sure, so. Of course. No, with all these disappointments, that would be a perfectly natural thing to do. Let's just check. We need to do something about that before we start. Yeah, we do. Okay. So in order for you to be fully participating and have at least enough engagement that we can get this done, there's a little bit of energy of a kind of almost like a what's the word I'm looking for? Resignation, maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, something like
Or
that.
anger,
Okay.
disappointment, frustration.
Anger, disappointment. Yeah, it's a whole kind of combination of stuff like that.
Yeah.
All right. So it would be optimal for us to clear this away first to just get a clean environment for being able to approach the problem. Yes. Okay. When I test, I'll say it and then I'll hold my hand up so you and everybody can see. Okay. So this is an out technique energy. Yeah. So what this is because you've had so many disappointments and nothing has worked yet, it's perfectly reasonable that you would have a story running inside of, oh God, nothing's going to work, something along those lines, like, a discouragement, like you say, frustration, anger, discouragement. Can't even really put a label on the emotion. It's like a conglomerate of all those emotions all together. Yeah. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, and like despair, maybe not right this moment, but I felt that a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So let's resolve that first. Okay. It's kind of like just kind of clearing the air so that we can work properly. Okay. So this technique, you may recall from way back then, but I'll just describe it to you and then we'll walk through it. Okay. So the energy of this kind of emotion radiates out from the body and it creates a kind of cloud or aura of energy all around you, like I was saying before. And it's problematic because it's kind of like having dark glasses on. It kind of colors everything, and everything is seen through that filter. It literally clouds your perception. Okay, so what we do is actually very simple. First thing we do is you allow yourself to feel the energy field. Yeah, it's not going to be hard for you to do. I got to just think about it a little bit, and you'll feel that cloud of energy. You can probably feel it already. Okay, now it's very simple what to do. We want to extract ourselves from this field. The field doesn't fill up the whole universe. Okay, it may be big, but it's got a limit to it. So what you do is you let your awareness go out into the space around you further and further and further. And what we're looking for is the place where the energy fades off into the surrounding quietness. So
The surrounding cleanse.
I'm sorry. So what we do is we let the awareness move out into the space around you further and further, like moving through this energy cloud. We want to go out to the outer edge of it and beyond that edge out into the surrounding quietness.
Okay.
Okay. It's easiest to do with your eyes closed and keeping them closed throughout the process.
Okay.
When you find the outer edge and you get access to the surrounding quietness, let me know.
I feel like this well of sadness coming over me as I'm doing this.
Yeah. We'll need to deal with that. No, we'll get to that. That actually is kind of part of this energy. That's the sort of desperate, sad, almost depressing kind of energy that it has. Yeah. Perfectly reasonable that you would have that after all this time suffering from this. So just consider that as part of the energy that we're dealing with and allow yourself to just kind of move through it out until you find the place where the energy just kind of fades off into the surrounding quietness. It'll be there, no matter how big the field is, it'll be there.
Okay, I'm sensing this feel like expansiveness now.
Yeah, that's it. So if you just keep going, there'll be a place where it's not typically a kind of hard edge like a bubble. It's more like it just kind of becomes sort of fainter and lighter and then sort of wispy and then kind of fades off into nothing. And we're interested in that nothingness. Normally we don't pay any attention to our own awareness, which is what that is. But today we have a real interest in it. Now, because you have this chronic pain, you may feel the pain and the quietness both. But the pain is something different, and it is possible to experience both at the same time.
Yeah.
So, starting to get a sense of the getting outside of the cloud.
Cloud. It's more like a field.
Like a field, yeah.
It just sort of goes on in the infinite.
Yeah, but it's not actually infinite, it's just really big. Okay? So if you just keep going, we know that there's quietness out there because that quietness is your awareness, and there's actually, you're already there. It's just that you've become sort of absorbed and lost inside this field of energy. But what we want to do is to get outside of the field of energy. So we just keep going until you get this sense that you're sort of moving through the last outer limits of it, and then you'll find yourself being able to access the surrounding quietness in which it's happening. And it'll feel good to be there because you'll be outside of this desperate, angry, disappointed feeling.
Well, I'm not there yet.
That's okay. Just keep going. It'll almost seem like you're kind of imagining it. You actually are experiencing it with what we call the subtle sense of touch and sight. But if you just kind of keep going, you'll find the quietness. It's for sure there.
Okay, I'm there.
Okay, great. So now go a little bit deeper into the quietness, a little bit further away from the edge of the energy field. And you do that by just noticing the area of the quietness that's a little further away. And we do this in order to get the distinction between the energy and the quietness even more clear. Not hard to do. Get a sense of that?
When I really get there, I can't really talk. So
That's okay, no problem. So now go really deep into the quietness now, quite far away from the energy field. And you'll notice as you do that, that you could just keep going. It's like the quietness is endless. It's just kind of vast, expansive, limitless, really. You get a sense of that? Yeah, just a nod is perfect. That's great. Okay, so just hang out there for a moment and notice that there's no desperate, disappointed, anger, frustrated feeling out here. It's just quiet. Now, as you look back at the energy field that you were inside of just moments ago, what's happening to it now?
it's like kind of emanating and glowing.
Yeah. Does it seem like it doesn't quite have the grip on you it had before when you were inside of it?
No, it has some grip.
Some grip. Okay. Now, Do you still feel like you're deep into the quietness and you're observing it from a distance?
Yeah.
Okay. So notice that this energy is there because you have a story that's kind of running frequently in the background. Haven't been that aware of it, but it's kind of the story of, oh, it shouldn't be like this. I shouldn't have this problem. How come I can't solve it? Why does nothing work? Things like that. Yeah?
This like feeling like this isn't my life. This isn't the person who I was supposed to be.
Exactly. Exactly. Shouldn't be like this. Exactly. Now, notice that the energy of the emotional field is an energy that's a reaction to the presence of this story. Now, that's a subtle distinction because it seems like it's a reaction to what's happening to you because it's there all the time. But it's actually a reaction to the story about what's happening to you.
See, if I try to process too much what you're saying,
Yeah.
I get away from the quiet.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll go a little slower and leave a little more gap, so you can just again take your awareness way out into the quietness, so far away that it's not easy to get pulled back in. Okay. So now, in order to get this field of energy to be completely gone, and also in order for it not to come back, we want to question the value or benefit of allowing it to continue to come up in your awareness. It's there a lot of the time, and we want it to be there zero amount of the time so that it's just not causing you all this frustration, disappointment, desperateness, all these kinds of things. So we want to question whether allowing this story to be in your mind, I mean, it has a reasonable basis for why you have it, but it's not helping you. And you'll see that as we question it. Is it in fact keeping the problem from occurring? To keep this story in your mind.
I don't know if you're asking me or some other entity.
No, I'm asking you.
Oh, I don't know.
I mean, you still have the problem, and you've had this story running for a long time. It's not really helping, right? Yeah. So, is keeping this story in your mind benefiting your life, making your life better in any way, shape, or form? No. So, it's not a good investment of your life energy to allow it to continue to be there and generate this reaction, right? Right. So, if you were an investment advisor, you would never advise somebody to invest their energy in this way. Right? So let's take your own advice. What we want to do is to just recognize that it's just basically a bad habit. Even though there's a perfectly reasonable reason why you developed the habit, because you had this ongoing problem and haven't been able to solve it, it still doesn't benefit you to keep the story running and have this desperateness reaction. Right? So now that you're outside the field of energy, do you have more of a sense of choice about whether you continue to run the story or whether you can just kind of unplug the power cord and not have it be there anymore? Don't have that. Okay. So we have to question a little further. So if it's not benefiting you, and it's not only not a good use of your life energy, it's draining your life energy, and it's not giving you any liberation from the problem, what would inspire you to keep it?
When you say it, does that mean the story around my
story? Yeah, the story not about the pain, but the story about, oh, woe is me, this is not the life I was meant to have.
So is that story benefiting me at all? No, there's no benefit to it.
No benefit whatsoever. So would it be possible?
You know what? Maybe so. I mean, it's made me. Should I keep my eyes closed still, or?
Yeah. Keep your eyes closed.
I've become a more spiritual, compassionate, empathetic person because of it. And I did a very deep dive into all kinds of transcendental practices and modalities. And so it's dramatically changed the course of my life and also my personality.
Right. So did that come out of this story, or did that come out of something else, which is just your desire to find an answer?
My story, I guess.
So if the story was, why me? Then it's a separate thought to say, well, let me figure out why. I'm going to go try something.
Well, usually when I'm asked why I have this pain, like by doctors, healthcare practitioners, I kind of flippantly say, like, God hates me, because I hate answering, like, I don't know how to explain my pain, and it's more just to kind of dismiss them. Although sometimes
Right.
I think my more like prevailing belief is just like God has forgotten about me. So that's I think the story about it.
Okay. So whether that's true or not true, the thing is that no one is making you run the story other than you. And if you stopped running the story, do you think you would have any less energy and attention and interest in finding an answer? See, the thing is, you're believing that you need to hold on to this story, but there's actually no benefit to the story whatsoever. It's not actually the motivation for why you're seeking good answers. You're seeking good answers because you're in pain. Right? So the story is extra to that. It's separate from that. And the story is what's causing this group of emotions that is even hard to describe. Okay. And it's important to get that distinction, because you need to want to let go of the story completely, and you're going to have an incredible liberation from a big burden of what's happening when you do. And you won't lose anything. You won't lose any motivation to have an answer.
Yes, I want to lose the story.
Very good. So all you have to do is decide that you're not going to give it any more energy. And I'll show you how to dismantle it, okay? So what I want you to do is to purposefully think the story, but leave off the last couple of words of the sentence of the story. And notice that it's possible to do that. Right? Okay, now do it again and leave off the second half of the sentence of the story. Just stop it right in the middle. This is kind of like, running a vacuum cleaner, pulling the plug out of the wall. It just kind of goes, Okay, now stop it after the first few words.
Okay.
See, you're actually a choice about this. You get that?
Okay.
Yeah. Now stop it after the first word.
Okay.
And now just have kind of the gentle intention of running the story, but don't even let it turn into words. Okay, this is the process of being empowered about unplugging the power cord of the energy that you've been allowing to go into this story. You're deeply habituated to run this story, and you may need a little practice at unplugging, okay? But because it's not bringing you any benefit, okay, when you really decide you're done with it, and you just don't feed it any more energy, you'll probably notice now that the energy of that field is either gone or almost gone. And when you really let it go completely, the story and the energy will be completely gone.
Yeah, and there's that wave of sadness that comes up.
Now, this sadness has been so significant, so intense, that it's caused almost like a trauma inside of you. So we're going to use the other technique, the in technique, to resolve that. So the sadness that you're feeling, there's a kind of central origin point of it somewhere in your body. chest, belly, someplace. Can you feel it?
I don't know whether I can't feel the origin. No.
Yeah. Well, there's a field of energy there, right? It's like a field. And in the field, go ahead. Oh, bless you. Mm. Okay.
That was it.
In the field of energy, if you just feel the whole thing for a few moments, you'll notice if you just scan the whole field that there's an area in the field of the energy where it feels more concentrated, more dense, or more constricted than elsewhere. So just allow yourself to feel the whole thing and see where.
Yeah, right in my belly, yeah, my stomach.
Okay, okay. So what I want you to do is to adjust how close to that you are with your awareness. I want you to be as close to it as possible without it being overwhelming. Okay, don't get so close that it overwhelms you. And keep the focus of your attention right into the center of the strongest part of the energy field. If it feels like it's too much and it's going to overwhelm you, just back up a little bit so it's not quite so close.
Okay.
And it's amazing that we have the capacity to adjust that distance.
It's like a fire hose of energy.
Yeah. It's possible that you may be able to notice there's a kind of opening there, almost like the eye of a hurricane.
Yeah.
If you can get yourself into the eye, it'll be easier because it's calm in there. You have to get really close to it, which sometimes is difficult in the beginning when you're learning how to do this, so we normally don't teach people. This is kind of the second way of doing this technique. But if you can get into the eye, actually, it'll be calm in there. It won't be so intense. And then you can just kind of glide down or float down the center of it. There's a little vortex there. Turns out these energies all have a hurricane-like structure to them.
Okay.
Can you get in there?
Yeah, I think I'm there.
Yeah. Go ahead and dive in, jump in, surf in, skateboard in, whatever you have to do. Get in there. And just kind of float down the center. Careful not to bounce off the walls. Just float down the center of that vortex. You'll feel the energy sort of swirling all around you, but inside the vortex it's calm. Is that kind of working?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Stick with it. Just keep floating down. It'll be however long it's going to be. But this is great, actually. This is very good to be doing this way.
So what am I doing once I'm inside there?
Well, the thing is that the energy that's creating the pain is swirling out from nothingness into existence right from the middle of this vortex. And what we're doing, the whole process that we're doing, is completing the incomplete experience of the energy that you've been holding there all this time. And it turns out that the most efficient way to do that is to catch it right at the point where it's just sprouting out of nothingness, which is right in the center of this vortex. Usually we don't teach this until people have done it the first way of just noticing the central strongest part of the energy for quite some time, because you need to kind of acclimate to being used to feeling the intensity of the pain. But maybe you've been doing that all your life, so you're already used to feeling the pain, so you can do it. So that's good. So being able to get close enough to the energy that you can find the opening and get in there, that's the tricky part. Most people have no idea that that's even there, but it's there in every one of these kinds of energies.
Okay.
Amazingly enough. So you just keep floating down the center of the vortex. Now, when you get down to right near the bottom, the experience will start to change. And it'll feel like the hurricane, last part of the hurricane is kind of breaking up and dissolving, kind of moving away. And then you'll sort of have this sense of coming out the bottom of the vortex, and you'll be back in that expansive quietness of your own awareness. And then the energy will just kind of dissipate, kind of like the fog burning off in the morning sun. It'll just dissipate and be gone.
Okay.
And when you get there, let me know. Okay, great. Very good. So now scan that area of your belly where the pain was and see if there's any more of it there. You're doing great, Jasmine. Anything left?
Yeah.
Okay. So notice the energy field of what's left. Sometimes there are layers to this stuff, huh? Or you have multiple copies, kind of backup copies stored there or something. Yeah, it could be. So notice this one and notice that again, it's a field of energy. And do the same thing. See if you can get close enough to it to find that opening at the top of the eye of the hurricane of this one. As you get closer, it feels more and more intense. So you have to see if you can, stand the intensity to get close enough to get inside the eye. And then as you just experienced, once you get inside, it's like quite different. It doesn't feel so intense. It's calm in there. No, okay. So that's all right. Just then, it's perfectly fine to do it the first way. Also works, okay? So just notice the area of the field where the energy feels the most intense. And just notice the central, strongest part of the energy field. And that's all you do. You just notice it. The noticing is actually the simple process of beginning to complete the experience of the incomplete energetic experience that's been held there. And as you allow yourself to just notice it, simply notice it, then it gradually starts to get completed. And eventually the sensation starts to diminish and becomes less. When that happens, let me know.
So this process of getting aware to where these like energy vortex hurricanes are going to, and kind of diving into it, and then getting distance and then getting closer. That's what is happening.
Yeah, that's great. That's exactly right. Now you'll notice this is the opposite of what you usually do, because usually you don't want to feel this stuff, so you go the other way. You go as far away from it as you can get, right? The unfortunate thing is that just keeps it. Whereas this process of allowing yourself to feel the essence of the energy, which resides right in the middle, this actually completes the incomplete experience so that when it's gone, it's actually really gone and doesn't come back. And that's exactly what we want.
Okay.
So keep going on this one until the basic concept, Jasmine, is we want to feel the energy of the emotions so thoroughly, so completely, that there's nothing left to feel.
Like this connect, like all this like childhood trauma, like terror, really.
That's it. That's where this stuff has been coming from. Sure. Been stuffed down inside there ever since. So don't get absorbed in the content of the situations that cause the trauma. Keep your attention focused on the energy. That's what's working to get this resolved. You're doing great. How's it going? Keeps getting softer? Excellent. Keep going. You're doing it just right. Now again, when you get very near the end, the experience will start to change. We'll feel like the energy is breaking up and sort of dissolving, dissipating like before. And it just kind of moves away, a little bit like the fog burning off in the morning sun. And then it's gone.
Okay.
Is that happening? Terrific. Just let all the energy dissipate and be completely gone. And then you can open your eyes.
Oh.
Wow. Okay. Good job. So now let's test it out. Scan that area where it was again and see if there's any more pain in that particular area.
Yeah, it's still there.
Okay. So it's very likely that this kind of this solar plexus or belly area, this has been kind of like one of your favorite hard drives for storing your emotional pain. So I've kind of got stacked up layers of it there, like a stack of pancakes or something. Yeah. So we want to penetrate down in through whatever's there and make sure it's all thoroughly resolved. Are you up for it?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. It's actually not so hard, is it? It's a little bit of work because you're not used to doing it, and it's uncomfortable, but it's doable. It's doable. You've now been successful at it a couple of times.
Well,
Yep.
with you as my guide, so.
Yeah, sure. Okay. Yeah. The thing is, because you've been doing the opposite of this your whole life, it does take a little bit of guidance and a little bit of help the first few times you do it in order to really get the feel for it. Now, after you've done it 5, 10 times like that, then you start getting good at it. You can even do it on your own. It's like fine. Plus, I also have now a free app that has the audio instructions in it for guiding you through the techniques. I'll get you the link to it. You can download it and get it. And you just swipe to the right anywhere on the face of it and it gives you the next instruction. So you can go at your own pace. It's actually really cool. It's called Awaken Your Inner Greatness. Yeah, I'll get you the link for that. All right. So you up for doing another one? Okay. Are you feeling a little bit lighter? Hard to tell yet, maybe.
Sometimes when I have some relief, it just like brings up tiredness. It's like
Yeah,
so
sure.
much, and I can.
Ah, sure, sure. Yeah, like, ugh. Yeah, exactly. I got it.
Pain is just exhausting.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. Actually,
And then
I
when you
know.
release it, that's like also kind of exhausting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. I, I had a bike accident and broke my collarbones, cracked a couple of ribs, and boy, that was a pain on the level of 20 on a scale of 10, I'll tell you. I could hardly move for like 2 months, you know. So I know what you're talking about. It's really, yeah, okay, let's go for this next one, huh? Okay, so if you're up for it, go ahead and close your eyes.
Okay.
Go back to that same area where you could feel that still something left there. Optimal to do this one. Yeah, this is the next one. Notice the field of energy.
Because it's in my throat.
In your throat now. Okay. Is it stronger there than in your belly?
It's just, they're both strong.
Both strong. Well, take your pick, whichever one you like then. Let's do the throat. Yeah. So again, notice that this is similar. There's a field of energy there. The quality of it may feel similar or a little different, doesn't matter. We're not concerned with that. We're concerned with noticing the place in the field of energy where the energy is the strongest, which is usually right in the center of it. You get a feel for where that is?
Yeah, it's like it's like. I mean, this really feels like a hurricane. Like there's thunder,
Yeah,
lightning, and
yeah, exactly. So get as close to it as you can without it being overwhelming. And just put your attention right into the center of that strongest area. You might find the opening of the vortex, or you might not. Either way is okay.
this is. I can't find it.
That's okay.
The other ones, yeah.
No problem. Just notice the central strongest part of it. You may find it later. It's okay. If you don't, it's totally okay too. Doing it the first way, where you just notice the central strongest area and get closer as it gets softer, that's perfectly fine. It works very well.
It's very stormy, and there's no like way inside into that vortex. It's like
No problem.
cold, the cold feeling. Literally, it's like coming over me now.
Mm, mm. Does the energy itself feel cold, or you just feel cold in your body?
Both.
Both.
Like
Okay.
I'm freezing all of a sudden.
Okay. So notice that there's an area within the coldness where it feels the coldest. And put your attention right in there.
Okay. This one I can't get in though.
Don't worry about getting in. It's totally fine just to notice the strongest part.
You're still there?
Okay, yeah, good. I had a little background noise, so I put myself on mute so it didn't bother. I'm with you. So you're gliding down the vortex? Excellent.
It's really beautiful actually, because like it's a it was a very intense, violent storm.
Yep.
Like and like very intense winds, like you couldn't even stand up. Is noisy with like the crackling of thunder and just like cold, and just frightening. And so once I finally got in, it's like from the inside out, I can see like rainbows that are kind of dissipating it.
Wow, cool. And how is it now?
Well, it's just becoming like beautiful and softening.
Wonderful. Keep going. You're doing great. You're feeling the essence of it in a very effective way. This is really good.
It's like I have a paintbrush and I'm like painting rainbows from like the inside down.
How cool. So you're doing great. Just keep going. Don't let the images be too distracting. We want to make sure we're just focused on going down the center of the vortex. It's totally fine to have these nice rainbow images, but keep the attention on getting to the bottom of the vortex. You don't have to try. You just kind of let your attention float down.
And it's dissipating.
Excellent. Okay. Now, I had done a little testing while you were doing this earlier, that there are actually just 4 of these traumatic energies you've been holding in the body, and you've already handled 3 of them. Okay. So it may be that the 4th one is in the same place, or it might be in a different place. So let's start by scanning the same area again, seeing if there's anything left there.
Yeah. I think it's, instead of it being the front, it's like the back.
Okay, okay. Which feels stronger, front or back?
The back.
Okay, so let's go there. And I'm just testing for you. This is the location of the 4th energy. Yes, okay. So let's go there and allow yourself to notice the field, the whole field. And again, let your attention be drawn to the strongest part of it. It's kind of calling out to you, actually. It's like saying, hey, come over here, pay attention to me.
This feels more fiery.
Fiery, okay.
Like wild demon dogs.
Yeah, yeah. So go to the wildest, demon doggiest, fieriest place, which is typically right in the center. Get as close to that as you reasonably can, not so close that it overwhelms you, but close enough that you can really feel it. And just innocently notice it.
Okay.
Okay, very good. Oh, excellent. Okay, so I was doing a little quiet testing while you were doing that. Didn't want to talk to disturb your process. But my sense of it is, and I was testing that this is accurate, is that there are only these 4 traumatic energies. They're really kind of been the cornerstones of the problem. The problem of the headache and the neck ache and all this other stuff has been caused by you sort of like resisting, like kind of clenching yourself up to kind of try to not have to deal with it, right? And so all of that stuff, we need to talk about that for a moment, okay? Because that's a sort of secondary level of the problem. It's not not the central level. My intention, and I'm sure yours too, if we had talked about it in more detail, but was to get to the real root of the problem and resolve it at its underlying deepest basis, right? So that we really get rid of the foundation of it, okay? So these other experiences that you have in the neck and the head, these are the tightening up of sort of resisting having to deal with the deeper traumas that have been held in your body. So that would naturally just kind of go away by itself now, because there's nothing to resist anymore. Okay? Those central core energies that have been at the root of this problem are now all completed. Yes. There's more of them that are hidden or masked or something that we need to go find. No. Okay. This is excellent. Okay, this is really, really hopeful. Really hopeful. Okay. Now, I want it to be okay with you that you're going to have a real breakthrough on this today. As remarkable or unbelievable as that might seem, the thing is that all the other approaches that you have tried have been primarily symptom suppressive. Okay, they haven't been getting at the real need that your body has needed your attention to be put on these things so that you could complete the incomplete experiences so that the body could actually completely let it go. Okay. You haven't been doing that. Okay. In fact, you've been resisting it. Yeah. And any of the other things, the medications and, acupuncture and all this different stuff, EFT, EMDR, all this kind of stuff, they're all designed to attempt to, in some way, they're almost like medications, right? They're all designed to somehow desensitize you to it. But in a way, that's a kind of sophisticated form of suppression. Okay, so what I was just saying is that the other modalities that you've been using have been working on at the wrong level. And what your body has needed is the completion of these incomplete traumatic energies from the past. And yeah, you've had it all your life because many of these did happen in childhood. Yeah. Okay, so now over the coming couple of weeks, 2, 3, 4 weeks, whatever, it would be helpful when you start to feel neck pain, head pain, to just sort of take a little break from whatever you're doing and just notice that you don't need to tighten that stuff up because there's nothing to tighten up against anymore. Right? This has been your reaction of kind of resistance to the presence of this stuff. And although this would just naturally ameliorate and it's going to drop away over time anyway, just having a little bit of attention to, because you've had a long-term habit of doing this, right? Just having a little bit of attention to just noticing that you don't need to do that will be probably helpful in speeding up the process of stopping doing that, okay? So I think what we want to do here is to, we're going to do two things. One is we want to have that attention for it. We want to wait a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of 2, 3, maybe 3 weeks. And then we check back in, okay? We'll get on another call for 5 or 10 minutes just to check in. We'll see how you're doing.
I want to do this process if I feel like I need to. Or just
yeah. That's the second point that I was going to make, okay? Is that I have a special program. It's called the Freedom Practice. And it's a way of being able to get at the kinds of things that we've been avoiding, like what you've been doing, okay? The reason you've been avoiding it is that we have basically 4 kinds of thoughts that influence our decision-making. One kind is practical thoughts, making a shopping list, getting directions, just practical stuff. There's no emotional charge to these kind of thoughts, and we need them. They're useful, okay? Yeah, all kinds of things like that. Then the second category of useful thoughts is our intuitive thoughts. Okay? Intuitive, creative kind of thoughts. When you get an idea to cook something special, or you get an idea to write a book, or you get an idea to start a business, or you get an idea to have this session. This is your intuition, right? This is good stuff. And we don't always recognize our intuition, and many times we get intuitions and then we sort of negate it or ignore it, and then I'm sure you've had the experience. You have an intuition about something, you don't act on it, and then later you find out your intuition was absolutely spot on. You can just kick yourself for not following your intuition. You know what I mean? Yeah, everybody has these kind of experiences. Yeah, so there are 2 categories of thoughts that are useful, practical and intuitive. The second 2 categories of thoughts are the ones that are ego-based and the ones that are emotionally pain-based. Okay? Now, the problem is that we've had all 4 of these kind of thoughts all of our life, and they all come as thoughts. But people don't bother, because they don't know to do it, they don't bother to make a distinction between which kind of thought it is, and so they don't know when they're making a decision whether they're following an intuitive thought or whether they're following some ego or emotionally pain-based thought. And the ego and emotionally pain-based thoughts have these 2 kinds of energies, the in and out technique energies, that cause those thoughts to come into our mind and really engage us. Like they can be like, oh, I really need to do that, I need to do that. And it's like, I want it that way. This is the ego. Right? And when it's, oh my God, that's, I don't want to have that experience. This is like the emotional pain, right? So I have this special program called the Freedom Practice where I teach you how to be able to recognize which of the 4 kinds of thoughts you're having. And then if it's ego or emotionally pain-based, to immediately do the locate technique and then in or out techniques to resolve it. Now what this does is it's a gradual process of really cleaning up your inner emotional landscape more and more. Okay? And what it does is it allows you to be more and more attuned to your intuition and less making mistakes, costly mistakes, by following your ego and emotionally pain-based thoughts. Does it make sense? Okay, so I'm going to send you some links to some information about those programs. I'm just creating an online version of the training so people can learn how to do the muscle testing. This is actually the key. The beauty of the muscle test is it pulls us out of the mind and into the body.
And why are you doing this in China? But we're in China.
I'm fairly near Shanghai. I've spent most of the last 3.5 years in Shanghai. One of my advisors, who I trust his intuition a lot. A few years ago, I was asking him, I could do my work anywhere. Where would be the best place to do it? He said, go to China. And I said, what about the US? And he said, China. I said, okay, I'm going.
Oh my God.
So I came here, and he was right. I mean, this is where the money is these days, I mean, and there's been this huge surge forward in, the material life being much, much better here than it's been for, ages. But there's been a big
problem, though?
There's been lagging behind the personal development. There's a lot of anxiety, depression, skepticism. It's amazing. Anyway, the Chinese people love my stuff, and so right now I'm doing a training program of about 35 people to become presenters, so we can start having my training all over China and all the cities like every month. Because I can't, I've been doing all the trainings myself and I can't be everywhere all the time. So anyway, I created this freedom practice, it's called, to make sure that when these people get up on stage and they're talking, that it doesn't even matter what they're saying. It's their way of being that's the important part. Okay? Because I want them to be the living examples of having cleaned up their inner emotional landscape. So when people see them and they're speaking, they won't necessarily be able to articulate it, but they'll say, God, whatever that person has, I want some of that. So that's kind of my plan. It's going incredibly. We've had in the past a kind of standard protocol for doing sessions with this work. And I'm seeing progress in this group of these 35 people in a month or two that I didn't see for a year or two with people doing it the previous way. And even that year or two was much, much faster than most other modalities. Okay, so this is a great quantum leap forward in the use of these techniques. And this is a very recent development, just in the last 6 months. So I'll send you a little information. You can read about that. Okay, because that's incredibly useful for dealing with the ongoing stresses that we're all faced with just by living human life. Great. Okay, so we'll follow up in about 3 weeks. I'll send, we can arrange that by email. Okay, and we'll just check in and see how it's going. And yeah, there's something else needed for our session today. Yes. Okay, what is that? Has to do with allowing this to be okay. No, has to do with something about this thing of noticing and relaxing. Yeah. So this noticing the tension that starts to build up, you have such a long-term habit of that you will need to be it'll be helpful. You don't really need to, but it'll go faster to stop having those symptoms. If you can, when it starts to come up, just notice it. And here's what to do. When we did the noticing your thoughts and then noticing the background, the quietness, okay? It's called the quietness technique. Okay? I'm going to send you the links to the app. Okay? When you start feeling that tension coming up, open up the app and do the quietness technique. Okay? It'll take you right into the silence, and then you'll just notice a kind of like, kind of being able to let go, There's no need to resist something because there's nothing to resist anymore. Okay, the underlying core energies that you were resisting are gone. Still some of them left? No, I'm triple checking. We got them. That's great. Okay, so I'll send you the link to the app. Yeah, I'm very hopeful for you that we really have a solution here, dear. Let's see how it goes. If there's still something in 3 weeks, okay, we'll go at it again, huh? Well, I'm not going to give up. I'm going to help you really have a whole new life.
God bless you.
Namaste.
Okay, thank you so much, Tom. Thank
You're
you,
very welcome.
watched.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, you had some people pulling for you here. This is great. Okay, take care now.
Okay.
See you in a few weeks. Bye-bye.
Okay.